Yes, well, good evening. Good evening and welcome to the show. Now, some time ago, we observed that certain fairy tales are kind of popular the world over. But in each country, the fairy tale varies somewhat, you know, depending on the culture and the area that they tell the fairy tale. And tonight, what we'd like to do is to tell a classic German fairy tale. Maestro, bitte schön, haben Sie hergehört? Well, once upon a time, there was... Twice upon a time, these are the dirty crook. It's enough already upon a time. Ladies and gentlemen and sweet baby dumplings, how are you all this evening? Tonight, Uncle Otto is going to tell you the story of Hansel and Gretel as soon as we get a lot of talking stopped around here somewhere. Now, they lived in a little white house, and what a tough life they all had. Boy, Sebe. You know yourself how tough it is to be in a White House these days. Now, this Hansel and what's her name lived in a little town in Bavaria near Cologne on the Rhine, which is just outside Frankfurt on the Bun. That's about 1.5 miles from Hamburg on the diet plate. Well, they all lived there with their daddy, who was the most bitter man in all of Germany. I tell you, he was a real sauerkraut. Now, you see, he was a tree surgeon, and all his life he tried to find a new way to put twigs on a dying dogwood tree. But he found out too late that you cannot teach an old dogwood new twigs. Well, be that as it may, West. These kiddies had a rough time, you know. They didn't have what to eat is what the trouble was. There was no food. The only thing they could do when they were hungry was to get themselves into trouble. Now, when they would get into trouble, what would happen? Well, he would get in a jam, she would get in a pickle, and they would eat it. I think they're smart, no? But anyway, their daddy took them into the forest to lose them, but Hansel, he was no dummy. He was a prachtvolle Gröbe, de Hülsen, haben sie geheizt, Zahn wie die Knölzen, Breilzweit. He was a hockey player, that's it. Well, he took a piece of bread, and he dropped crumbs to leave a trail. But he was not so smart as he thought, because the birds came along and ate all the bits of the bread, and like I say, using bread is a crummy way to leave a trail. It's not such a big laugh, but pleasant the way we are going along. I like it. You know, it's, well, they were lost. I didn't found myself yet either. But the hours flew by or night fell. Night fell. Night slowly slipped down. Yes, but they jumped out of the way in time and nobody was hurt. And that was when Hansel and Gretel saw this hut, which was made from chocolate. It was a hut... Oh, it's... All right, I will say it because I am a brave man. It was a hot chocolate. How do you like that? Don't show your temper to everybody. All of a sudden, the woods was lighted up with a blinding flash and a flap of thunder. And I don't think that's right, something I said. You know who that was? It was the witch. The witch was a genie what lived with a beige rabbit. Now I'm going to say that again because after I say the next thing, we'll all play basketball, yes? The witch. Listen closely because you must understand the psychological imprint of these terms. Oh, boy, you dirty crook. This witch was a genie what lived with a beige-colored rabbit. You see, she was a genie with a light brown hair. I am glad to see that you all understand the deep underlying emotions of this joke. And as soon as you do, please write me a letter because I don't know what it is yet. Well, I tell you about this witch. She was a witch which makes wishes come true. Do you understand that? And this witch came from Ipswich. She was an Ipswich wish witch. And she was rich. She was an Ipswich rich wish witch. Now Hansel and Gretel said, "Witch, oh witch, we wish we was back home." Well, to grant the wish, the Ipswich witch had only to throw a switch. Big question, which switch? Answer, a wish switch. She had a hip switch, and a lip switch, a fist switch, and a wrist switch. And it all depended on which switch the Ipswich rich wish witch would switch. Whoosh! Should she grip the hip switch, or trip the lip switch, or twist the wrist switch if she missed the fist switch? Which wish switch would the Ipswich rich wish which switch? But there was a hitch. A mouth fell off. Well, thank you. Now, I tell you, Hansel and Gretel kicked the old lady into the oven, and they ran away, and they lived happily happy after. Again, you're getting me crazy. And so, little children, remember and don't ever forget the subject of this story, which is. No, that's it. Witches.